Hi, Debbie. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Eugenie. How are you doing?
I am doing fair now that we got this video thing working.
That's right. We got it.
I was a little concerned there for about 15 minutes. But today I have with me a friend of mine, Debbie Sage. She works with the Medicis Hospice and she works as the bereavement coordinator with them. And I'm going to let her take it from here. She's going to give you some of her backstory, um, her takeaways, and some of the maybe one or two coping mechanisms for going through the holidays if you're grieving somebody. And if you need to get a hold of her, she'll also tell you how to get a hold of her. So, Debbie, take it from here.
Thank you, Eugenia, for asking me to do this. It's when you think about, what you want to talk about in your life, and I was telling you I just turned 60, and when that happened, I got to thinking about, you start reflecting on the past, and I started thinking about in decades, like what's happened the last 10 years and then the 10 years before that, and when I started thinking about all the things that happen in 10 years, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's just unbelievable what can happen in 10 years. And, as you share, about your mission and empowering women and all over 50, I don't think that I really became empowered until I hit about 50, maybe started in my 40s. But, uh, in the decades, there's been good and bad, throughout all of it. For many years, I went down a bad journey, and it took me a lot of years to recuperate from that. With there's so much molestation going on in the world, and a lot of drugs and alcohol, and all those things that we use to try to escape from life. And it was a very bad road that I went down, but in that process, I now have a relationship with God, and I have a savior. And
He
so
really did. He really did save you.
exactly. And I mean, took it all away, and made everything completely different. My whole life totally different. But I did discover that one of the ways to become empowered because of this journey was to take responsibility for myself. And I think a lot of times, women, I know I did, we were victims, and I had to learn that we're truly not victims very much of the time. Most of the time, we're volunteers. And then the way I handled it was to blame everybody else. It was everybody else's fault and not mine because I'm a victim.
Right.
And so when I got into recovery and learned that, oh my gosh, my choices, it was my choices. And when I realized that, it was uh, devastating and humbling all at the same time, because you a couple of choices then, do I do something about it and make things right, or continue to blame other people, but taking ownership empowered me greatly, a lot. And ever since then, in all situations, just having a choice empowers a person.
I
And
agree totally with that. Yes.
yes, it does. And, sometimes we're the victim of other people's choices, and there's nothing we can do about that. Um, and so you just have to either turn it over to God, or, pray for them or whatever, but how we react to that too, um, you know, is our choice as
Yes.
well, and how we act. And so, a lot of what I learned as well was to check my motives. What are my motives? And sometimes it can be conscious and sometimes it's unconscious, your motive, but that's where that soul work and that hard work comes from, that
Yes.
you have to look inside, to find out what is my motive really.
And that can be kind of scary.
It's very scary because it's so much easier to blame others than to do the hard work of what's wrong with me or what needs fixing in me, and but when you eat enough humble pie, you kind of give up. It's like maybe I need to check and see what is wrong with me, and that I found was very empowering for me. And so that's what I use, with dealing with grief and working with people who have lost a loved one. I some people say, "Oh, I just want to die myself," or some are afraid they might their loved one might kill themselves and stuff. And when I talked to them, I told them, I said, "Well, that is an option. It's not a very good one, but it is an option, and you do have the power to choose. I mean, you can choose to just ball up in the corner or get some tools in your tool belt." Oh, excuse me.
That's
To
okay.
my nose started running. To to learn how to cope, because we're on this journey together. And either way, it's going to be hard, but it can be better, when you have
And
those.
and you're not saying that tears are wrong or that being sad is wrong, but learning how to cope with those and to take those sadness vacations and to allow some of the joy
Yes.
in.
It's just like I talked to somebody earlier today, a bereaved, and she put it so well. She said, I have good days and bad days, but she said, if one day I just feel really sad, I go with it. If
Yeah.
I feel really happy, I go with that too. And I said, that's perfect. That's being true to yourself, honest with how you're feeling, and being kind to yourself and being honest. This is how I feel,
Right.
and
And
not
sometimes you may
conforming.
go through both in one day.
And say that again.
I said, one day you may go through both in one day.
Exactly. You can. You sure can. And just being able to be honest about it, because grief makes those around you uncomfortable,
Mhm.
and they don't want, they're they'll say things like, you're not over that yet, and or you're not praying enough, or uh, they just all you're still crying, those kind of things. And then you start feeling guilty because it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't, something's wrong with me and all this. And I said, no, be honest. If you can't be honest with yourself, no, this is how I feel,
Mhm.
and people may not come around, but that's all right.
Mhm.
God's always with us, when I went through my own grief of losing my brother, I mean, I would just wail and wail and wail, nobody be around, but God never tried to stop me. He just let me do it, you know. And actually tears release endorphins. So I say go for it. You
Yes,
know?
yes.
It'll make you feel better,
I know
So
I cried a lot after my mom, dad, and my nephew. So, it it's cathartic. And I can't say I didn't crawl up in a ball, especially after mom, dad, well, and my nephew who was 21 years old. And I did crawl up in a ball, but I still made myself get up the next day and brush my teeth and wash my face and get dressed. And I would leave the house, sometimes not for a long period of time, but I would leave the house. And then I would come back and read or play with my critters, but do something.
Yes,
But you're right. If you cry, you cry.
exactly.
This is the way it is.
And it's okay, and I think that's one thing that's been wonderful about group. I do group at least twice a year. I had one this year because of COVID. I decided to do a long one, so I had one for 3.5 months. That's the longest I ever had one.
Wow. Wow.
And it was very in depth, and even at times, with the homework, I wanted to throw it in the trash. It's just it was so in depth, and but it was great. And the good thing about one of the good things that's come out of COVID is because of not being able to meet in person, I can have people from anywhere in the United States come on the group,
True.
and did. So that was the good part. But there's the added grief on top of the regular grief with the COVID, because funerals have changed, and you can't love on people like, we were, and all those kind of things. So it's been very different. And
Yes.
so that's been a hard part as well.
But I'm glad we have people like you who are trained and help teach people so that even if it's different, people can be helped and listened to and heard.
Yes, I mean,
So,
acceptance. You just
yes.
accept it,
Yes.
that there's nothing you can do. So what is the best way we can? And, most people are not open to visits because of COVID, but the other bereavement coordinators and I have discovered that people are willing to talk longer, and before that they'd let you come to the house and all, but it's hard to get to so many, but you can get in more phone calls,
Right.
but and they just talk and talk, and so that's been really good. So it changes, on how you deal with it.
Definitely.
um so through the holidays, I sent out a bunch of holiday letters and things and different tips on um how to deal with the holidays. And I think it's very important not to let people pressure you and what they think you should be doing, because they don't want you to be sad or, and all. But, sometimes even with me dealing with so much death and everything, there are just days that I'm just quiet.
Yes.
I just don't turn anything on, TV, nothing. I just have to be, you just have to kind of absorb what's going on. And when there's a lot of activity, like with the holidays and all, um, people will tend to feel alone in a crowd, because everybody's having a great time and nobody's getting it that I'm hurting. And to be sensitive towards those who have lost someone, and my favorite story is Winnie the Pooh and Piglet going to see Eeyore, and they just be there with him,
That's right. Just be there.
just be there. I'm not here to fix you or anything. I'm just gonna sit beside you, you know and that presence is just very very powerful.
Yes.
And
Don't have to
allow
say
them,
a word.
yeah, allow them to feel how they feel. Don't try to fix them. That's one thing I stress in group. That's one of the group guidelines. We are not here to fix anybody. We don't tell nobody what they need to do, what they should do, all them good shame words, and I think that, women, and because we're women, we know this, so we don't know what it's like for a man, but we know, we get a lot of that shame stuff, and how we should look, what we should do, how we should act, and all those kind of things. So it does take a few decades before you get to the point, that you're just like, I'm too tired to comply.
Or you just get where you're so comfortable with who you are and with yourself that nobody can take that from you.
No,
And you don't really care if they try because you're just going to say, no,
exactly.
who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I believe. And, this is terrible. If you don't like it, the door's right over there,
Well, it takes us a long time to get to the point that we even know who we are,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
I've been this and that and the other, relationship wise or whatever, and then trying to find out who I am,
Exactly. Exactly.
and it takes a long time, I believe, to be comfortable in our own skin,
Yes.
and who we
There, there's a saying from the coaching institute I went to get certified, and they say that you can shoot all over yourself,
Yes.
and not to do that. You can shoot all over yourself. S-H-O-U.
Or you can do that too.
You should. Oh, goodness gracious. That's a tongue twister.
That was good. Yes, you can do one or the other.
Well, one's probably more acceptable than the other.
Yeah, like my grandma used to say, either they'll get over it or they won't,
That's right. That's right.
But then, that gives us the reputation of being a bee.
Oh, yeah. I do know that.
And that's a shame. We can't be an empowered woman with an opinion. It's like something happened the other day, and I said to whoever it was I was around, it was a situation with a husband and wife, and it's like she didn't have no say so. It wasn't nothing terrible or anything, but and I thought about that, and I've been thinking about that since then, and I'm like, no say so? I mean, why?
Because she's a woman.
And it's, it was plans, some kind of plans, but it's like she had no say so in it, and I'm like, I probably never will get married again. I got no say so. What?
I was I had been a hospice nurse before, and in the very near past, I was with a patient and his wife, and he was just berating her and saying, your job is to take care of me and nothing else. And I finally just stopped. I said, ma'am, I said, you are a beautiful woman who is doing her best to take care of her husband. You have a right to say yes. You have a right to say no. And you do have an opinion.
Yeah.
And when you need to voice it to me, I will listen. And I actually had to say it right in front of him, because it was really bad. That was really his belief. And I mean, I understand beliefs and patriarchy and all that kind of thing, but I also believe that she had a voice.
Exactly. I always say, didn't Jesus have a lot of women hanging out with him, and he trusted them?
Well, yes, and he accepted them as equals.
And wise.
Yes, and very wise.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's a shame when just being a woman is a threat if you have an opinion or a say so, or anything. And I've experienced that a lot in past relationships. It's like couldn't have an opinion or a different opinion,
Right.
and everything was about it wasn't anything equal, it never was what I thought love was supposed to be, that mutual respect and that.
Well, everybody talks about submission,
Hmm.
and we're actually supposed to be submissive to each other so that we respect and listen and hear and love one another.
Yes.
Um, that was something that there was a little thing in the book called The Shack, which I dearly love. And it
Me
was
too. I saw you've been reading. I love that.
I reread it. I reread it. I'll probably reread it again sometime. But it's a lovely book, and it's I can see why it would be scary for some people, but I'm one of those outside the box thinkers. So yeah.
And the whole point of the thing is about forgiveness.
Exactly. Exactly. And how freeing it is. It's not saying that person wasn't right or wrong. It's freeing yourself to move forward, and it's freeing them to be redeemed by God if that's the choice they make.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah. But Debbie, what is your takeaway for women over 50? What if there was one takeaway you have for them, what would that be?
My takeaway would be, I'm reminded of the when I went to a counselor when I left my ex-husband. And I said, I've been in recovery. I'm doing well, but something is wrong here. Something's wrong because I keep choosing abusive men. Something's wrong with me. And she said, and so she knew my story, and she says, well, Debbie, she says, that man that molested you put you in a trash can and you kept yourself in it.
Oh, wow.
And it was like she reached over the table and slapped my face. And I looked at her and I said, today I'm taking myself out of that trash can. And I did. And I envisioned myself going and meeting my 10-year-old self and grabbing her by the hand and saying, come on. And I left my ex and I went back to school for 5 years,
Oh,
full
wow.
time, and worked full time. And here I am because of that, because I finally believed in myself that I could do it. And if you listen here and not out here, or even those voices in here, that committee that lives up there.
Yeah, all the parts.
To tell y'all that, fire all those people, But if you're honest with yourself and willing to do the hard soul work, do that. That's what will empower you. And to ask yourself, if people say things, because we get hurt by what people say and all that, and to ask yourself, is that really true? It's like breaking apart all those things and not just, really think about what's in here, what God made, what's in your heart and your soul, and grow that. That's what's important. When we see people dying all the time, people don't talk about their jobs and this and that and the other. It's what's going on in here and their relationships. And everybody should be able to leave in peace. And one day we all will leave. And to be at peace, do what you can to empower yourself, learn from other women, and go with that, and don't let others control your life. Let the good Lord control your life. Then you'll be all right,
But the Lord still gives you choices.
Oh yeah, you got to use your wits about you, you know?
You have choices, and
Yes.
I don't always make the right choices, but
No, me neither. You know,
um, but we learn, we grow, and I am so thankful that you pulled yourself out of the trash can, you opened that lid. I am thankful that you are listening to your soul and your core,
Mhm.
and I'm thankful that you are thriving in who you are and in your relationship with God.
Yes.
I'm very thankful for that.
One day at a time.
One moment at a time sometimes.
That's right. And don't should on yourself.
That's right. that was when they talked about that. I got so tickled. I was like, yep, don't shoot all over yourself. There you go.
Well, I thank you for asking me to do this. And I always pray that, it'll fall on somebody's ears that needs to hear it, that needs to be empowered.
It will. It will. My intention was set before this video for whoever needed to hear it.
Yeah.
So it is going to be heard, and it's going to speak to somebody. And if not, there'll be some very entertaining aspects of it, and they'll laugh, which is good for them too. Hey.
Laughter's good for the soul.
Yes, it is. It's also aerobic exercise. So remember that. But you have a beautiful day.
Thank you, Eugene.
And-
You do the same.
And hopefully we'll be in contact again soon.
Sounds great.
Now, if someone wanted to contact you, how would they contact you?
Oh, they can contact, I have my work and my personal email. My work email is Deborah, DEBORAH .sage, SAGE @amedisys.com. Amedisys, AMEDISYS.com. Personal email dsage183 @gmail.com. My home number 803-469-7620. Cell number 803-795-8076. If anybody needs any help, if they're going through some hard times, they can certainly give me a call. And if I can't help, I'll find somebody who can.
Amen. Amen. Well, have a beautiful day. I know you have a call at about 4:30. So I'm going to stop this recording, and it takes me a little bit of time to do that. So I'm going to figure that out. And you have a blessed and beautiful day.
Thanks, Eugenia. You do the same.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.